Welcome back to the Deep Drive. This is episode 7. As usual, I'm your co host, Han Rungta, here with my boy Max Goldstein. We're talking MLB. It is almost the end of August, or it is approaching the end of August, which means it's also almost time for the NFL season. And if you want all your fantasy football content, NFL betting content, join us in the Discord. If you're watching on YouTube, join us in the Twitch streams every Tuesday at 4 p.m. Eastern Time, except next week, because we're going to have 1 week off the podcast next week as I'm busy. And part of the reason I'm busy is got to get you all some content for football season. Season rankings are up. Go check those out in the Fantasy Football channel. And week 1 rankings, so that you can set your lineups, will be up very soon. There may or may not be a chance to win some money as the NFL season approaches. So join us in the Discord. But for now, it's time to talk some baseball. And there is some baseball to be talked about, some notable stuff. And the playoffs are going to be here before we know it. So, Max, are you ready to get into this rather chaotic episode?
I hope so.
I think it's only right, since we got so much going on today's agenda, it's only right that we start with a minigame. We're not going to get right to it, but I have a transition in mind. So we're going to start with a minigame. We're going to connect 5 players with one number, and this is your job today. I'm going to give you a list of 5 players that you have to connect with the number 50. Tell me how each of these connect with the number 50. Now, some are easy, some are a little bit harder. I will send you that list to your messages now. But the 5 names we're connecting to the number 50 today. Oops, I accidentally sent you the actual answers. That wouldn't be great. All right, we're going to run this back so that we can get a nice edited version for the short. All right, connect each of these numbers. God damn it. Connect each of these players to the number 50. Tell me how they're connected. Some are easy, some are a little bit harder. And the names, for those of you who are not watching in short format: Cal Raleigh, Mookie Betts, Fred Lynn, Alex Rodriguez, and Dennis Eckersley. You can go in any order, but connect these numbers to 50, and you get 3 strikes to do all of them.
Okay, well, I'll start with the only one that strikes me as easy, and Cal Raleigh runs.
Just repeat that because I think you lagged.
Cal Raleigh is the easiest one because he has 50 home runs.
Now, we are recording this on August 26th. As of right now, he has 50. You never know when you're watching this, he has 64. That is a number of target here. But yes, Cal Raleigh has 50 home runs.
These other, I know all these players, but it's hard to.
I think at least one of these others is very easy once you stumble upon it in your head.
I'm so bad with if one of these guys wears number 50, I'm not good with numbers.
I mean, only one of these players is active, and you may or may not have said something that could help you. See, I'm like a batter's umpire today. I'm helping you, even though you had 3 strikes. I'm helping you.
Okay, is Mookie Betts number 50?
Yes, Mookie Betts wears number 50. Probably the only thing he can accomplish 50 of as of right now. Sorry, I had to throw that
in. Did you ever like Mookie Betts at any point?
I liked him in 2018 when he was playing well, but that was a long time ago. Yeah, Mookie Betts wears number 50. You got the 3 retired players left.
Okay.
Now we're getting spicy.
Did Dennis Eckersley get 50 saves one year?
I don't think that is a true statement. I will verify that while we're on stream right now, but I don't think that's correct, so it's going to be your first strike.
Okay. Did Alex Rodriguez have a 50-50 season?
That I know for a fact is not true. Dennis Eckersley actually had a 51 save season, led the league that year, but no. So, yes, that is 2 strikes. I will help. Since you're on 2 strikes, I will help you a little bit. So 2 of these are not exactly, so it's not like they had 50 of something, but rather it has to do with 50 in a unit of time. And you could probably fill in the blanks. So 2 of these have to do with 50 years
Okay.
rather than 50 of a stat.
Uh, did Dennis Eckersley retire 50 years ago?
No, that is so Dennis. I've met Dennis Eckersley a few times. That is a little bit of an overestimation on how
Hmm.
old this man is. So the remaining answers were Fred Lynn, one of the only two players ever to win MVP and Rookie of the Year the same season. He won those awards 50 years ago, so that was his rookie season.
Hmm.
50 years ago, he won that first MVP. Alex Rodriguez was just born 50 years ago. He's just
Um,
and Dennis Eckersley was supposed to be the one that you were just not supposed to get. This is kind of a deep pull, but he ranks 50th all time in career strikeouts. If you had gotten 4 out of 5 and Eckersley was the only one you had left, I would have aggressively helped you. But it was a good enough shot.
well, I struck out.
Hey, yeah, you still put up a fight, which a certain player I won't name hasn't been doing much of recently. Um, but speaking of Cal Raleigh having 50 home runs, we got to open the show with that. Obviously surpassed the catcher record, but Cal Raleigh has been like the classic guy that people haven't cared has been an elite hitter for multiple years, and now the entire world cares just how good this man is at a premium position. I personally find it interesting that his defensive profile, just how interesting his defensive profile is this year. So, per Baseball Savant, Cal Raleigh among the league's worst in blocks, in blocking above average, but among the league leaders in caught stealing above average, 81st percentile, and 87th percentile in framing. Of course, some of this is correlated. Um, sometimes catchers who are great framers are not the best at blocking and vice versa. I find that interesting, but it's noteworthy that there's a couple of things that Cal Raleigh is doing an outstanding job at, and despite not being great at blocking, he is throwing runners out and he's framing pitches really well while having this historic season. And the whole Cal Raleigh versus Judge MVP debate is maybe for another episode altogether. But he's certainly putting his hat in the ring, especially because Judge hasn't been himself. He's probably rushed back coming through this injury. But now that everyone cares about Cal Raleigh, we can talk about his last few years. He's been among the league's best in barrel rate, sweet spot rate, bat speed, and uh, pulled in the air rate on Baseball Savant. Each of the last few years, since 2022, he's consistently among league leaders in those metrics and consistently around the 120 WRC plus area and consistently among the league's worst in terms of chasing and whiffing. But that's what comes with a hitter like this often. There aren't many Juan Soto's, Aaron Judges that can kind of do everything when they're healthy. But this year he took his fly ball rate from 50% to 58%, and that minor difference is perhaps accounting for at least part of the difference in number of home runs. And Cal Raleigh just having a special season. And Max, you can drop more numbers for us, but just had to acknowledge the kind of season he's having, that he legitimately has a case for MVP, even though my vote is currently with Aaron Judge.
Yeah, I mean his season's been remarkable, and one thing that like I think about is like you said, I know he DHs once in a while, but he's hit 50 home runs in his primary position. He's a catcher, which like I just I was looking at like who's been the like who are the worst hitters, like which like player seasons have been the worst at like in terms of hitting, and it's usually all catchers. Like Martin Maldonado is like notoriously a terrible hitter. Like Cal Raleigh's hit 50 home runs while playing. He's almost played 100 games at catcher, so it's you're not it's rare to see this type of power from a catcher. And then the other thing that I noticed is he actually has 20 home runs against left-handed pitching, which is crazy because there aren't that many left-handed pitchers. So he's hit 20 home runs and he's come up to the plate 170 times against lefties. So he's homering almost 12.5% of the time against lefties, one home run for every 8.5 plate appearances. So that's pretty crazy too.
Yeah, shout out to the guy who grew up a Red Sox and Jason Varitek fan.
certainly having a better season than Jason Varitek ever did, which is mind-boggling to think about when you go back to like his rookie year and he wasn't even a great player. I wanted to particularly like we often do this thing where we see an athlete in any sport having a crazy season, and next year we try to find the guy who can kind of be that next player with a similar profile. This is very very common in football, right? Puka Nakua has a great season. Who's this year's Puka? And it gets annoying to the point where in fantasy football sometimes like there sometimes isn't an equivalent. And that's the case with a lot of scenarios that there's no obvious like this is the next Aaron Judge, etc. But I want to throw my hat in the ring to a guy who has more similarities to Cal Raleigh than some may think, just because he's having one of those seasons where like nobody cares about his team, but he's having a season where he could potentially do something similar in the near future. And it may seem like an aggressive take, but hear me out. Shea Langoliers is 27 years old, and just like Cal Raleigh over the last few years, he's consistently amongst the league's worst in terms of chasing pitches and whiffing. So among the highest chase and whiff hitters in the league, but upper quartile in barrel rate and bat speed and pulled fly ball rate. These are all things that Cal Raleigh has been doing the last few years. And Shea Langoliers last night against your Tigers, he had a grand slam, and he is now approaching 30 home runs. And you sneakily are like, Shea Langoliers has been hot lately, and you just look at his career profile at this point, and he's been hot for a really, really long time for someone who people don't bring up as, a potential star. And this season, he's now up to 127 WRC plus. We're only seeing, the start of maybe something special for Shea, but he now has 58 home runs since last season. Pretty noteworthy. If Shea Langoliers can somehow get that fly ball rate a little more consistent and just increase his barrel rate just by a little bit, you're looking at a Cal Raleigh season next year. And he's currently playing in a hitter's ballpark. And I'm not saying he's going to hit 50 home runs next season, but if there's someone that feels like they could be the next Cal Raleigh offensively, someone who plays catcher and still is a very, very good hitter and a threat to hit maybe 40 home runs, it's Shea Langoliers. And I made this comp before I noticed that on Baseball Savant. If you look at 2025 Cal Raleigh, his most comparable hitter by StatCast metrics on Baseball Savant is 2023 Shea Langoliers. I thought that was cool.
Yeah, that is cool, and they both happen to play in the same division too.
That is true. Not often do you often get like pitchers, like stud pitchers in the same division. Like I thought we were gonna look this year at a Paul Skeens versus Hunter Green NL Cy Young race entering the season. Like I legitimately thought that was gonna be a real thing. But yes, they do say play in the same division. They'll be playing each other a lot in the near future. But we talked about some good news with catchers hitting a lot of home runs. Let's talk about some bad news. Zach Wheeler is done for the season. And it is especially relevant when you think about our first episode after the trade deadline. I started planting some flags. I feel like this was one of my first like flag plants of our podcast history. The first one being about the Red Sox being mediocre, and that was killed very quickly. And I apologized for that. Shout out Book of Chew for joining the stream. Be like Book of Chew and join the streams. All right, you can hear me now, right?
I can.
Awesome. So Zach Wheeler is done for the season. And I mentioned the Phillies as the best. I call them the best team in the league in our first episode post the trade deadline. It feels relevant. We need to talk about this because when a team loses their ace, no matter who you are, it's going to hurt your chances in winning the World Series. Like, we know this, right? But you look at the Phillies, and what are they losing? Obviously, they're losing a 2.71 ERA, a 2.98 fielding independent pitching, which this year is actually his best since his 2021 season. And his 2.69 skill interactive ERA, was his ERA estimator, his is career best in his age 35 season. So we got to acknowledge that they're losing like one of the more incredible pitching seasons like they've had in their franchise history, given what he's doing at age 35. They're losing their ace. So that's bad news, and it hurts my take that they're going to win the World Series. Well, no, it doesn't, because they're still winning the World Series. And we're going to talk more about this roster, but I'm planting my flags that the Phillies are still extremely dangerous. They're still tier 1 contenders. They're still going to win the World Series because this roster is actually insane.
We've lost you again. Maybe your microphone feels you're talking too optimistically about Philadelphia.
I think we're going to go no headphones for now. And if problems arise with that, well, screw me then. So what do the Phillies have left in the rotation? They have Christopher Sanchez. They have Ranger Suarez. They have Jesus Luzardo. And they have some other pieces that we can talk about in a minute. But let's just talk about the rest of this rotation. Because when you go out in a playoff rotation, when you go out in a playoff series, you usually go out with around 3 starters, and maybe you need a 4th at some point, a spot starter, depending on how previous games go, whatever. But their core 3 is still one of the best that you could possibly ask for in this playoff bracket. Christopher Sanchez is having, he should have been an all-star, an obviously outstanding season. 2.66 ERA with a 2.65 fielding independent pitching, 3.15 SIERA. Ranger Suarez has a 3.07 ERA, 3.05 FIP, and 3.62 SIERA. So those two by themselves, still very, very good pitchers. And you think about teams we're talking about as potential contenders on the American League side, and we've talked about the Blue Jays being sneaky contenders, and you think about what top 2 can they send out there that you absolutely trust in a rotation. You're like, nobody. You think about the Yankees, who they can send out. Max Fried has had a little bit of inconsistency since in the second half of the season. Without Garrett Cole, who can they trust as the second bona fide guy? We don't know, right? The Cubs are going to make the playoffs, and besides their rookie Cade Horton, who do they have? Meanwhile, the Phillies have those two, and they have Jesus Luzardo, who has a 4.1 ERA, but a 3.07 fielding independent pitching, which is actually better than Ranger Suarez, and a 3.46 SIERA, which is better than Ranger Suarez. So I think Jesus Luzardo is someone that I would like to buy low on the rest of the season, and someone that I think is going to have some great playoff starts. And then there's some more stuff in the pitching staff that we can talk about, but Max, how aggressive am I being? Am I being overly optimistic about the Phillies?
I still really like the Phillies too, and Jesus Luzardo, he'd be the best starter on the Blue Jays and the Cubs. I don't think that's a bold take. He's been really good, and then also you were saying, Christopher Sanchez, you were his stats for a second. I thought maybe you didn't account for yesterday where he actually wasn't great, but those are his stats even after a bad performance. Christopher Sanchez he's an ace. Zach Wheeler was the best pitcher on the team, but Sanchez would be a number 1 on probably almost every team. And Ranger Suarez is good too. And then even Aaron Nola probably it's possible that he would be the best starter on the Blue Jays and the Cubs, and he's the Phillies' 4th guy.
Yeah, he's now the 4th guy. Would have been the 5th guy. And Aaron Nola is could potentially be it feels weird to say that Aaron Nola being decent could potentially change the outlook of how deep this Phillies team can go, because only 11 starts, yes, but it's been a rough ride for him. So 6.52 ERA. But again, his SIERA 3.75, there's stuff potentially there. His stock plus is down. His velo has obviously been down the last couple of years as well. He has a lot of innings. He has a lot of mileage on his body. So you can't sit there relying on Aaron Nola to be good when the playoffs start. But he's going to be on the playoff roster, right? He's going to be there. He's going to be available for some long relief outings. The Phillies just DFA'd Joe Ross right before this podcast. I'm surprised Taijuan Walker has made it as far as he has on this Phillies team. So I thought Joe Ross would be the one to survive. But regardless, we'll see who makes the playoff roster. But I know, Max, you value bullpens a little more than I do. But when you have a top 3 that the Phillies do in Sanchez, Suarez, and Luzardo, that's this is without Zach Wheeler. This bullpen is certainly not just good, but good, definitely good enough to complement that top 3. No matter how much you value the bullpen, it has to be noted that having a closer is super valuable. Joan Duran, averted serious disaster. He's going to be on the playoff roster. Hopefully no more injury scares. David Robertson, Matt Strom, Tanner Banks, Jose Alvarado, and Orion Kerkering, like all pitchers that can give you valuable whiffs in the playoffs. Like Orion Kerkering has experience coming into bases loaded, nobody out jams and getting out of it. He's done that multiple times over the last 2 years. Tanner Banks and Matt Strom, you have two lefties. Sometimes one of them can be hot, one of them can be cold, and you've seen like World Series champions like go through an entire postseason like having like multiple relievers be cold during the playoffs, but it's fine because like the two or three that are hot can complement a great starting rotation really well and give you everything they've got in the postseason. And I think the Phillies have 7 relievers or 6 relievers where you could like take any pair of them to be red hot during the playoffs, and I like their chances to go all the way. And their offense, like everyone knows how good they are. Like they rank number 9 in WRC plus, number 6 in Statcast hard hit rate. And I think the Bader trade was a really good one. And Max, you astutely brought up when we talked about the Phillies last, that Max Kepler is not someone you could just give up on either. So he could potentially be useful in a playoff run as well. So I think the Phillies, without Zach Wheeler, are still winning the World Series.
I mean, I feel like the World Series, like unlike the NBA championship, the Super Bowl, like it's so hard to like predict who's gonna win because baseball compared to those sports, it's like the gaps between the teams, it's not as great as like this, like in the NBA, like if you put like the Celtics against like the Pelicans when they stop playing all their players, like the Celtics are gonna win basically. Like there is not that in baseball. Like the worst team, like the Rockies beat the Dodgers in a series like last week or whatever. So like it's hard to know who's gonna win the World Series, but the Phillies definitely, they have a real chance. And then something else I wanted to say is like a sign of a good team is when your Cy Young candidate, when one of them, when he gets hurt and you still have a really good team.
Yeah. And Philly, obviously, like the fan base, and some of you Philly fans are in our Discord, and you've given us, feedback about the Phillies, and y'all are very pessimistic about the Phillies, even when Zach Wheeler is healthy. So you know what? Zach Wheeler is out now. Like the hope should be lower, right? Just calm down, take a breath, and watch some baseball because this team is potentially really, really good. And hey, the 2021 World Series winning team, was missing Ronald Acuna. Just putting that out there. More on the pessimistic side of things. Royce Lewis has been an adventure the last few years. Like number 1 overall pick, and he has looked like one of the best hitters in baseball sometimes when he's healthy. But this year has been a wild ride, and there was an article that came out recently, I believe on The Athletic, where he made some comments, and I'm going to read some direct quotes from this article where he expressed frustration about his performance and the Twins' support. And keep in mind that this ties in with the fact that the Twins' ownership comes out and says they're not going to sell the team, and their fans are starting to rage. He said, I feel like I'm kind of on an island and trying to figure it out on my own. I haven't felt comfortable all year. He also, so Royce Lewis also noted about in-season adjustments that he said, I'm fighting to take care of myself and my family. I don't want to put any of those stats in jeopardy. And he said that when you make in-season adjustments, sometimes there can be a lag of a trial period where you're trying out those adjustments in-game, and it could put you in a more of a cold streak than you were initially while you're getting adjusted to your new swing or whatever. So first off, like, just no context, Max, I want your like thoughts on these comments and how much you believe in Royce Lewis at this point.
I still think Royce Lewis is a good hitter, but I feel like his quotes, like, I don't know who would like hear those quotes and be like I feel like he would lose. Like I know, like I don't play video games really anymore, but like in like my career is like if you say something like that, you're gonna lose fans. Like no one, like to say that you don't want to make adjustments because you're fighting for your family, like you just shouldn't say that. And then the other thing, like you said, he was a he's been a really good hitter before. So I don't know if it would like if I was talking to him, maybe I'm sure he's already done this, but like his second year in the big leagues, he had a 153 WRC plus, and he also hit really well in the playoffs. It was a small sample, but he had a really nice year 2 years ago. So like I would want to be looking back at my tape to try to see is there anything I was doing differently? Is there anything I'm doing differently now compared to then? Because maybe he doesn't need to adjust. Maybe he just needs to like kind of re like find his old swing. Like I don't know that he needs to try anything new, but when he was a better hitter that season, so maybe you should maybe he's swinging the same way. Maybe it's just been a tough year. I don't know, but I feel like unless you're the best hitter in the league, and even if you are, you should always be looking at ways that you can do better.
Yeah, and I feel like the optics of like people, the way people use words are distracting us from the fact that like this is potentially a really good player when healthy, and like maybe health is just the problem. Like as someone who has been, healing a shoulder injury myself since February, I know for a fact when I get back on the basketball court, like I'm going to have to relearn how to shoot. It's going to take some time to get back. And these are professional athletes who are facing the best professional athletes in the world. And obviously, like if you're facing pitchers who are fully healthy or have all their pitches work going for them, and you're not 100%, you're going to look really bad, especially when you have expectations. And I feel like no matter what he had said, it would have been bad for optics no matter what, because he was asked about potentially making adjustments because there were rumors that the Twins coaching staff wanted to make those adjustments, and because the Twins are so bad and they want, the fans want new ownership so that they can care more about the team, etc. The anger that they have toward the team not caring about winning, some of that is going to transfer to Royce Lewis because he said those things. But if he had taken it an alternate route and just said like, I think that I should make adjustments, but like I don't know if I trust the adjustments that I'm being told to make. Like that's bad optics too, because
Yeah,
he's throwing his
maybe
coach staff under the bus.
maybe there isn't a right thing to say, but he definitely did not say like what he said was. I don't like the Twins ownership. I know it seems like they don't care, but they probably were even upset by what he said because it it doesn't reflect positively on them, certainly.
Yeah. But I feel like all in all, like at the end of the day, like no one's gonna fix Royce Lewis's slump except like Royce Lewis and his health. And just some numbers: 84 WRC plus on the season, like you said, 153 a couple years ago, 107 WRC plus on the in the second half, so since the All-Star break, and a 41% hard hit rate, which is actually not even bad. That's axiomatically above league average. So like you said, like it's possible he doesn't need to make adjustments, and it's possible he just needs to get his full health back or whatnot. And you have a predictive stat as well, which also has him above average. I didn't know if you wanted to comment on that, but
Yeah, I think it's just like maybe he's like he said he's not sure about adjustments. Like it's possible that he's still kind of been a good hitter this year.
Yeah.
Or at least above average. But I still think he should be more open.
Yeah. And all this means is for sickos like me, I'm buying low on him next year because I know for a fact he's probably not going to play 100 games, but when he plays, he's going to be a fantasy monster. So that's how I'm reading this situation. So Royce, you know what? Take the offseason to figure it out so that next year we can buy low and maybe you can hit 30 home runs. I think it's time to go into our next mini game before we close it out with some end of season stuff. So Max, what do you got for me?
Okay, so I want you to blind rank 5 pitchers.
All right, let's do it.
Okay, the first pitcher, I know this is a pitcher that you like, is Hunter Brown.
All right, so you said pitchers. I have no idea if they're going to be only starters. I'll set the standard by putting him at 2.
Okay, the next pitcher is Tarek Skubal.
I have to put him at 1, and I'm already regretting it because there's probably someone that goes in between. I have to put him at 1.
Okay, next up is Jacob DeGrom.
I have to put him at 4 because I have a feeling I know who's coming. One of the names is coming, and I simply cannot put him below Jacob DeGrom right now, so I have to put DeGrom at 4.
Okay, next up is Garrett Crochet.
Yeah, that's who I should have put at 2, but I guess I have to put him at 3.
And then finally, a pitcher that I guess it just was announced he's out for the rest of the year, but Nathan Eovaldi.
Yeah, Nathan Eovaldi done for the season. I'm fine with Eovaldi at 5, even if he was healthy. Shout out Nathan Eovaldi, by the way. I saw the news that Chris Young announced that Nathan Eovaldi was done for the season, and my instinct was that his 2018 Red Sox teammate Chris Young announced that, but it was the Rangers president of baseball operations, who was also a former player, who announced that. But yeah, I'm fine with how that ended, but I probably would have swapped Crochet and Brown.
I think your rankings are good, but I agree that Crochet probably is the second best. Those are the top 5 guys by AL Cy Young odds, but now Eovaldi's odds are he doesn't have a chance of winning the Cy Young. But.
Right. I did not see that was interesting because I did not even realize that Eovaldi was top 5 in odds. So that was a good one. I think you have a related topic that you want to discuss that hits close to home, so you go for it.
Yeah, I think that game, it was inspired by, I always like to look at like who's favored in like the awards odds, but those bets are actually really hard to kind of have an idea of what fair odds are because so many players could win it, and it's hard to know like the chance of an injury. And the other thing is sometimes, maybe even a lot of times, the player that deserves to win does not win. So what we're going to talk about next is who we think's going to win the AL Cy Young. And prediction, it's not probably, it doesn't align with my fandom. And I actually think Tarek School's probably a better, at least this season, maybe he's been slightly better than Crochet, but we've seen it in the NBA, and like humans are voting on this and they all know that Scooble won it last year. So I feel like, I don't know that it's fair to Scooble. It's really not, but I think Crochet, with the Red Sox looking like they're going to make the playoffs, and he's really been like so important to that team, I think that he's going to win the Cy Young.
This topic is so cool because we have a Red Sox fan and a Tigers fan, and both of us have had stages of underrating our team this year. I thought the team wouldn't make the playoffs, and you still think that the Yankees are better than the Tigers. So, both of us are a little delusional. But I think Tarek Skubal is going to win it, and that's despite the voter fatigue. Crochet, I just want to address how close some of these races are. Like you said, you were looking at top 5 in Cy Young odds on FanDuel right now. By the way, since we were discussing it earlier, Cal Raleigh and Aaron Judge are a pick'em, are both minus 110 to win AL MVP. It's been a while since we had a race legitimately this coin toss-up-y, or whatever the phrase is, this even going into the end of the season. And we also happen to have another race that's almost even. Tarek Skubal is currently a very small favorite over Crochet to win the Cy Young. I think there's a reason that Skubal has, Crochet has had an incredible second half, and you can make an argument for both. I think there's a reason that Tarek Skubal is still favored, and I think, obviously in September you get to face more of your division rivals. Both of these teams are going to make the playoffs, so both may be a little careful in terms of innings. I'm going to lean Tarek Skubal just because obviously it's super hard to predict how their starts are going to line up. I don't even bet on daily baseball games until half an hour before the game start because I wait for the market to move and observe that, whatnot. So it's very hard to predict, but just because of the fact that he gets to face some really bad offenses down the stretch, and the fact that he can be so efficient where they can manage his pitch count and he can still go 7-8 innings easy and pick up 10 Ks in 90 to 100 pitches. He's done that multiple times this season. I'm going to go with Scooble, but it can go either way. And pretty noteworthy that Crochet was around plus 350 to win Cy Young just around a month ago.
One more thing I wanted to say about the whole race. Now I'm kind of forgetting what I wanted to say, but I forgot what I wanted to say, so maybe it wasn't that valid.
Just interrupt me whenever you think of it.
Okay.
But yeah, I mean, just looking at these Baseball Savant profiles. By the way, if you guys are not using Baseball Savant, use Baseball Savant. The search feature has been awesome. Just like the Emmanuel Clase tweet is like a prime example of the search feature on Baseball Savant is awesome. Terrence Scooble, I did not realize until looking at his Baseball Savant that he actually ranks 43rd percentile in barrel rate allowed. Like he's actually allowed a lot of barrels. I guess I didn't realize that, and I know he hadn't allowed a left-handed batter home run for like a long, long time, and Edouard Julien ended that streak. But I guess I didn't realize that just in that department alone, Crochet has maybe had the slightly better season because he hasn't allowed as many barrels. But otherwise, they're essentially neck and neck. Speaking of the end of the regular season, the next time we're gonna do this podcast, it's going to be 2 weeks from now. We're going to be firmly into September. We're going to be a couple weeks away from the end of the regular season. And that's when you start standings watching, really. So it's time to look ahead a little bit. The wild card race is about as unexciting as it can get because I had this hot take that the Red Sox weren't going to make the playoffs. They were plus money when I said that. And I was just like, you can still get it at plus money. This team is mediocre. Meanwhile, they're like so comfortably in a wild card spot that like they lost series to the Marlins and the Orioles. They got 2 games swept to the Orioles. They blew a late lead to the Marlins. They almost lost last night to the Orioles again, but they came back. And like Red Sox fans are literally like thinking about the playoff roster and not stressing about the fact that they're in a wild card race. So there's a lot of spots already locked in. So Max, do you want to talk about the races that you are actually looking forward to?
Yeah, so it's sad because actually, I mean, I'm happy the Tigers have like a 100% chance. That part's good, but I think it's fun to follow. Like I'm used to like last year when the Tigers had to come back from all the way down. Like that was kind of exciting, and this year, I mean, as of right now, Fangraphs, another really valuable baseball site, they only have one team that has their playoff percentage listed between 10 and 90%, and it's the Royals, and it's barely above 10%, 11.5%. And then the one good news is the Dodgers and Padres. That could be an exciting division race because the Dodgers are only up by 1 game. Fangraphs has the Dodgers as 3 times more likely to win the division, but there's still a real chance the Padres could pull it off, and that would be cool. And then the Astros and Mariners are 1.5 games apart, and those chances are closer to 50-50. So I feel like it could be cool. I don't love watching baseball outside of my favorite team, but like it's fun to score watch, and those like if those teams are playing each other late in the season, that will be definitely important.
Yeah, and I did not think the Dodgers Padres race would be like a real thing we're discussing at this point of the season when the season started. Because like I knew the Padres would be a good regular season team, but I didn't think they would be good enough to dethrone the Dodgers. I think the Dodgers were maybe do not quote me on this, but minus 800 to win the division at some point in the offseason. So I think that's super cool for the Padres that they're in this discussion. I also am a sicko, like I said a few minutes ago, and I want the Padres to win the division so that I can get better prices to fade them in the playoffs because I still think they are frauds. I still think the bottom of their lineup is not good. And they also happen to start a guy who is just not good at baseball at the top of the lineup in Luis Arias. And they their rotation just does not move me outside of our boy Dylan Cease. So I would be glad if the Padres won the division because I still think the Dodgers in a playoff series, I still fear the Dodgers way more. And that's despite the fact that they roster Mookie Betts. But all jokes aside, I think the Padres are not going to be a contender. So if they win the division, it gives us a better route to fade like everyone's, America's favorite team. Last year they were a wild card team. They didn't even win the division, and they played the Dodgers. And you saw all of betting Twitter on the Padres to win the series, and I was on the Dodgers. And I'm like, why was this that difficult? The Padres were not that good. So this year, I'm kind of hoping the Padres win the division so we can fade them. On the other side, we have like an actual good race that like Astros versus Mariners. Like this is a team that I believed in from the start in the Mariners, and I have a futures ticket on them to win. I was about to say the AFC because it's football season, but to win the American League. And then you have the Astros who, like, I did not think they would be winning the division, leading the division by 1.5 games. If you told me that, they traded away Kyle Tucker, and yes, they got pieces in return, but still, they traded away one of their best players. They have been without Yordan Alvarez for most of the season, and they've been one of the most injured starting pitching teams in all of Major League Baseball. So I would not have predicted that, and that's despite me being a big Hunter Brown guy, big Framber Valdez guy. So Astros, shout out to them for like being in the lead for the division. I think this can go either way. And I think the Mariners, whether or not they win the division, I stand by the fact that they are a real threat to go to the World Series and lose to our Phillies. Max, do you have any other closing thoughts to chew on for the next couple of weeks?
I don't think so. But the one thing I was like just thinking about earlier is we have to track it. But I feel like a lot of our takes on players like Eugenio Suarez, Seth Lugo, I feel like we've been right about a lot of things, which is kind of cool.
That is that. See, I think like what I get so obsessed with acknowledging when I'm wrong because it's great content when I'm wrong, like the Red Sox take or whatnot. We haven't pat ourselves on the back enough for when we are right. So maybe that is a project we work on at some point. And Andy, shout out to our editor. He's been grinding for NFL season for us. We have a 17-minute video out, by the way, for NFL season if you guys have fancy football drafts. But Andy has been great with editing our videos, and he's going to edit this one as well, and he's going to see me say this. But we might have a project coming up soon where, once the MLB season has a little bit of a lull, maybe between the regular season playoffs, maybe we'll look into the takes we've had because we've certainly had a lot in our 7 episodes. But that is a good idea. And, speaking of good ideas, I think it's a good idea to wrap up episode 7 right now. We're going to see you all in 2 weeks from now. No episode next week. Get in the Discord if you're interested in football bets, WNBA bets, whatnot. And definitely get in the Discord because it's going to be a Discord exclusive thing where I have fantasy football rankings, season rankings already up, week 1 rankings coming soon. But other than that, we'll see you on the next episode of The Deep Drive in 2 weeks.